This is a country where everybody gets a fair shot and everybody does their fair share. Everybody plays by the same rules. That's what we believe here in America. We believe that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. We insist on personal responsibility. We don't believe anybody's entitled to success. We know we all have to earn it. We honor the strivers, the dreamers, the risk takers, everybody who's been the driving force behind our free enterprise system, the greatest engine of growth and prosperity the world's ever known. But we also believe that the true measure of prosperity is more than just a running tally of corporate balance sheets, quarterly profit reports. We measure prosperity not just by how many millionaires and billionaires we produce. We measure prosperity by how well a typical family's doing, by whether our kids are getting a great education and can go as far as their dreams and hard work will take us. We understand that in this country, people succeed when they've got a chance at a decent education, when they can learn new skills. And by the way, so do the businesses that hire them, or the companies that they start. We believe our economy grows when we support research into medical breakthroughs, or new technologies like clean energy and fuel-efficient cars. We know that our country is stronger when we can count on affordable health insurance and Medicare and Social Security. When we protect our kids from toxic dumping and mercury pollution. When there are rules in place to make sure that we aren't taken advantage of by credit card companies or mortgage lenders or unscrupulous financial institutions. We know we're better off when politicians in Washington aren't allowed to make decisions about health care that women are perfectly capable of making for themselves. That's what we believe. That's the vision that we embrace. I appreciate that. Governor Romney now, he's got an entirely different view about what this country is about. Don't boo! So he's been running around saying he's got a 5-point plan for the economy. Turns out it's a 1-point plan. Folks at the very top get to play by a different set of rules than you do. They get to pay lower tax rates, outsource jobs. They want to let Wall Street run wild, make reckless bets with other folks' money. That was his philosophy when he was a CEO. That was his philosophy as governor. And, you know, as President Clinton said, he does have a lot of brass because he's not talking about big change, but all he's offering is a big rerun of the same policies that created so much hardship for so many Americans. And you know, Governor Romney's been out here making a lot of last-minute promises lately. Said he's all about fighting for the middle class. Says he cut taxes for everybody and asked for something from nobody. But the problem is, we've heard those promises before. Now keep in mind, Governor Romney lives just a few miles south of here, in the state of Massachusetts.
What you gotta lose?
In Massachusetts. But during Governor Romney's campaign for governor down there, he promised the same thing he's promising now. Said he'd fight for jobs and middle-class families. But once he took office, he pushed through a tax cut that overwhelmingly benefited 278 of the wealthiest families in the state. And then he raised taxes and fees on middle-class families to the tune of $750 million. Does that sound familiar to you? Now, when he's asked about this, he says, no, these weren't taxes, these were fees.
What's the difference?
There were higher fees to be a barber, higher fees to become a nurse. There were higher fees for gas. There were higher fees for milk. There were higher fees for blind people who needed to get a certificate that they were blind. He raised fees to get a birth certificate, which would have been expensive for me. He raised fees for marriage certificates and fees for funeral homes. So there were literally cradle to grave tax hikes and fees. And when he left office, there were only 3 states in the country that had created fewer jobs than Massachusetts. And by the way, one of them was Louisiana, that had been hit by Hurricane Katrina. He talks a lot about small businesses, still talks about it. Says, I'm a business guy, I know about small businesses. Massachusetts, when he was governor, ranked 48th in small business creation. And one of the 2 states that ranked lower was Louisiana, that had gotten hit by Hurricane Katrina. So, you know, this is a guy who has a track record of saying one thing and doing something else. On the other hand, when I ran 4 years ago, I made promises too. I promised to cut taxes for middle-class families, and I did, by $3,600. I promised to cut taxes for small business owners, and I did 18 times. I promised to end taxpayer-funded Wall Street bailouts, and we have. And by the way, we got every dime worth of money that we used for the bank rescue, and we got interest with it too. I promised to take on those financial institutions that were charging too much for student loans. And we, as a consequence, were able to make college more affordable for millions of Americans. I promised I'd never walk away from the millions of jobs that were in jeopardy when the auto industry was on the brink of collapse. We decided to ignore Governor Romney's business advice when he said Detroit should go bankrupt. And now, America, we are building the best cars on earth. 4 years ago, I promised to end the war in Iraq, and we did. I promised that we would begin the transition in Afghanistan, and we are. I said we'd go after the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11. And thanks to the brave men and women in uniform, the courage of our Navy SEALs, Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat, and Osama bin Laden is dead. After losing 9 million jobs, under the theories that Governor Romney is now promoting, our businesses, under the ideas we've been working with, have added more than 5 million new jobs over the last 2.5 years. Manufacturing, highest job growth in manufacturing since the 1990s. The unemployment rate is falling. Manufacturing's coming back to our shores. Our assembly lines are humming again. Housing prices are starting to pick up. Housing starts are on the move. We've got a lot of work to do, but New Hampshire, the country, has come too far for us to turn back now. We can't afford to go back to the policies that got us into this mess. We've got to continue with the policies that are getting out of the mess. We've got to move forward, and that's why I am running for a second term as President of the United States. Well, I'm going to do it with you. We can do it together. You know, unlike Governor Romney's plan, he doesn't like to talk about it too much. I have a plan that will actually create jobs, that will actually lower our deficit, and will actually provide the middle class with a greater sense of security. And the good news is my plan, the math actually adds up. If you want to check it out, you can go to barackobama.com/plans. And I want you to share it with your friends and your neighbors and